Hello, I'm going to be doing my superficial back line explanation right now, and it starts at the plantar surface of the toes, moves to the calcaneus, then to the condyles of the femur, then to the ischial tuberosity, then the sacrum, then the occipital ridge of the skull, and then over top to the frontal bone. And it does knee and toe flexion and back extension, as well as keeps us upright. And a stretch for this, for the superficial back line, would be downward dog. And then an exercise would be back extension. So normally you put your feet up against the wall or on some sort of bench, just like that. And that's the superficial back line. So this is a superficial front line, and it starts at the mastoid process, moves down to the manubrium of the sternum, and down to the fifth rib, then the anterior inferior iliac spine, then to the pubic tubercle, and down to the patella and the tib tuberosity, and then the top of the toes it connects on. So it's all one line when you're standing, when you're in an upright position, and it's connected by the inguinal ligament, and then when you're bent over, it splits into two separate lines. And it protects the ventral cavity as well as balances out the superficial back line, and it also has more fast twitch fibers than it does slow twitch fibers. And an exercise to strengthen this would be the V-sit, and then a stretch would be the wheel. And that's it. Hi Lauren, this is going to be the lateral line, and it starts at the occipital ridge, then goes to the mastoid process, then moves down to the first and second rib, then does a shoelace pattern all the way down the ribs, then goes to the iliac crest, and from the iliac crest it splits into the anterior superior iliac spine and the posterior superior iliac spine, and then travels down the leg, goes to the lateral tibial condyle, then to the fibular head, and then connects all the way down to the first and fifth toe. And its function is to balance out the superficial front and the superficial back lines, as well as bilaterally balance out the left and right sides of the body. So stretch we could do for this one would be peaceful warrior and yoga, and so it's just stretching out this side, and then you do the same on both sides, obviously. And then exercise would be to strengthen and stabilize would be the side plank. You would hold for anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. You can switch over. And then to make it more challenging, you could also raise your arm up, so it's recruiting more stabilizer muscles. And that's the lateral line. So this is the spiral line. It's a little bit more complicated. It wraps the body in a double helix formation. And it begins at the occipital ridge, moves down to the sacrum, then over to the ischial tuberosity, down to the lateral tibial condyle, then the fibular head, and then it creates a stirrup under the foot and connects to the first metatarsal. Then it moves back up and connects at the iliac crest, and then crosses over the body and moves over to the lateral ribs. Then it moves back under the armpit, over to the medial border of the scapula, then over to the lower cervical and upper thoracic spinous process, then attaches to the occipital ridge again, and the mastoid process, as well as the atlas and the axis. And it functions to balance out all planes of motion, and it provides tracking, efficient knee tracking when you're walking. And a good stretch would be triangle pose in yoga, so basically like this, because it's providing twisting, and even deeper when you go like this and then go to the opposite side. And then you perform that on both sides. And a good exercise would be any twisting, rotational movement, so like an oblique crunch, but that wouldn't really be getting your legs in. And it also creates and mediates rotations and turns in the body. So yeah, that's the spiral line. Hi Lorraine, today I'm going to explain the front and back functional lines, and I'm going to bring it down to my little men drawn here. And it begins at the shaft of the humerus, and then crosses down and over to the lumbodorsal fascia, and it moves down to the sacrum on both sides here, and then down to the shaft of the femur, and then it wraps around to the front where the patella is, and then goes down to the tibial tuberosity. And yeah, so an example would be a javelin throw. And for the anterior view, it begins at the shaft of the humerus again, and then it connects down to the 5th rib and 6th rib cartilage, then moves down and connects, and they cross at the pubic tubercle and the pubic symphysis, and then goes down to the linea aspera of the femur. And kayaking is something that uses both of these, because when the anterior view, like the front fascial, the front line, when it's extending, the back line on the same side will be contracting, and they're all superficial muscles used daily basically, and they allow for extra power and precision, and they appear as spirals and work in helical patterns, kind of like the spiral line, and they're usually used during athletic activity. Yeah, and they're rarely used when we're standing in an upright position, so mainly during movement, such as a javelin throw, a baseball pitch, or tennis serve. And yeah, those are the front and back functional lines.